Cursed Wells. Hawthorne, a small settlement in the northern part of New England, was surrounded by dense forests. The town's history stretched back to the 17th century, and since then, it had witnessed many tragic events. However, the most well-known and terrifying story was the legend of the Cursed Wells. The townsfolk had always avoided going near this well and were afraid to even talk about it. This silence had caused the truths about the well to be forgotten over time. One day, a young couple named David and Emily, seeking a quieter life away from the city, found an affordable house in the town. The house had a large garden and an old well in the back. Their neighbors warned them to stay away from the well, but the couple didn't pay much heed to these old tales. A few weeks after moving into their home, David and Emily began experiencing strange occurrences. At night, they heard strange whispers around the house. These whispers became more pronounced as they approached the well. Emily was disturbed by this, but David thought it was just their imagination. One night, David decided to take his lantern and go to the well. As he peered into the well, he heard an echo from the depths. The voice said, "Save us." It wasn't an echo from the depths, but rather a living entity's cry for help. The next day, David and Emily went to the local library to research the town's history. They wanted to learn about the well's story. In the library, they found an old diary written in the 1800s. The diary's author was the town's former pastor, Jonathan Miller. The pages of the diary detailed the history of the well and its horrific events. In the early 1800s, one of the town's wealthy landowners, Richard Hawthorne, had lost a significant fortune due to a mining accident. Upon returning to the town after this loss, he was met with a terrible surprise. His wife and 2 children had died from an unknown illness. Richard, unable to cope with this tragedy, lost his sanity and devoted himself to witchcraft. One night, the townsfolk awoke to screams coming from Richard's house. When they went to his home, they found the bodies of Richard's family in the well. Richard had hanged himself in front of his house. Pastor Jonathan Miller wrote in his diary that Richard had performed dark rituals and used the well to revive their spirits. After this event, the townsfolk believed the well was cursed and kept their distance. After learning this information, David and Emily returned home. Emily wanted to leave the town immediately, but David was determined to uncover the truth behind the events. One night, David decided to go back to the well while Emily was asleep. He lowered a rope into the well and began to descend. As he went deeper, he felt a cold and damp air. When he reached the bottom, he encountered old bones and strange symbols. At that moment, he heard a whisper from the depths of the well. "Release us, ... double quotes, ... As David tried to find the source of these whispers, he noticed shadows moving on the walls of the well. These shadows were the spirits of Richard's family. These spirits had been trapped in the depths of the well for years and now wanted to be freed. David decided to release these spirits, but this decision would have dire consequences for the town. When David returned home from the well, he discovered that Emily was missing. He searched every corner of the house, but found no trace of Emily. In a panic, he alerted the townsfolk. The town elders believed that Emily had been taken by the spirits. David was determined to do whatever it took to save Emily. The town elders decided to help David. According to them, the only way to release the spirits was to perform an ancient ritual. This ritual had to be conducted on the darkest night of the town, during the new moon. David gathered all the necessary materials for the ritual and, with the help of the elders, began the ritual. When the ritual started, the town was engulfed in darkness. The wind picked up, and a strange energy was felt around the well. As David reached the final stage of the ritual, he heard a scream rising from the depths of the well. This scream belonged to Emily. When David looked into the well, he saw Emily's spirit. Alongside her were the other spirits of Richard's family. When he completed the final part of the ritual, the spirits were freed and rose to the sky. However, instead of lifting the curse over the town, this release had made it worse. The spirits had returned to seek revenge. The townspeople tried every way to escape the wrath of these spirits, but to no avail. While David was relieved to have saved Emily, he had to face the horrific fates of the other townsfolk. At night, screams could be heard from every corner of the town. People were locked in their homes, terrified. David decided to find another solution to stop this curse. Another diary hidden in the depths of the town helped David. This diary belonged to one of the town's first settlers and explained the source of the well's curse. According to the diary, the curse of the well existed even before Richard's spells. The well was a place where evil spirits were trapped in ancient times, and these spirits had been freed by Richard's spells. To break this curse, David contacted Daniel, the grandson of one of the town's old priests. Daniel knew of a ritual that could stop the curse. This ritual could return the evil spirits to the well and trap them again. However, the ritual was extremely dangerous, and if performed incorrectly, it could strengthen the curse. After learning all the details of the ritual, David and Daniel began their preparations. On the night of the ritual, the town was completely silent. David and Daniel gathered around the well and began the ritual. During the ritual, the evil spirits attacked them. Summoning all his courage, David managed to complete the ritual. The evil spirits were once again trapped in the depths of the well, and the curse over the town was finally lifted. David and Emily, along with the remaining townspeople, made a fresh start. The town began to thrive again after being freed from the curse. However, the well was still there, and no one dared to approach it. Everyone feared that one day the evil spirits might be freed again. David and Emily continued with their lives after this terrifying experience, but they could never forget the well. Every night, when they heard a faint whisper coming from the well behind their house, they realized that this curse might never truly end. Secrets of the Dead Forest. Willow Creek was a small American town known for its wooded areas and natural beauty. Those who lived there passed down legends of the vast forests and deep valleys that surrounded the town from generation to generation. The most famous legend was about the dead forest. The townspeople said it was cursed and that anyone who entered never returned. Although most people didn't believe these stories, they avoided going deep into the forest. In the middle of the forest stood an abandoned mansion that had fallen into ruins. The mansion was built in the 19th century by Charles Whitmore, a famous businessman. However, the Whitmore family had disappeared in the forest and was never found again. Years later, a young journalist named Alice Harper moved to the town. Alice was very interested in the town's legends, especially the story of the dead forest. She wanted to unravel this mystery and uncover the secrets of the town. One day, she gathered her courage and decided to visit the dead forest. She only brought a flashlight, a camera, and a notebook with her. When she reached the entrance of the forest, an old moss-covered sign caught her attention. Entry forbidden, danger, ignoring the warning. Alice started walking deeper into the forest. As she passed between the trees, the silence and darkness around her began to unsettle her. The deeper she went into the forest, the colder the air became, and the howling of the wind echoed in her ears. Eventually, Alice came to a large clearing in the forest where the abandoned Whitmore mansion stood. The mansion had lost its former glory and had turned into a dark shadow. Curiously, Alice approached the mansion and forced open the large wooden door. Inside, she was met with a dark, dusty atmosphere. The entrance hall featured a large chandelier and a staircase that caught her attention. The whole house was decayed and ruined over time. Alice turned on her flashlight and began exploring the rooms. Each room contained old furniture, paintings, and family photos. These photos documented the happy moments and grand lives of the Whitmore family. As Alice climbed the stairs to the upper floors, she felt as if someone was watching her. She turned around but saw no one, yet the feeling did not leave her. Entering one of the upper rooms, she found an old diary. It belonged to Elizabeth Whitmore, Charles Whitmore's daughter. In the diary, Elizabeth wrote about strange occurrences in the depths of the forest. She talked about the shadows she saw during her nighttime walks, the whispers she heard, and the terrible nightmares. While reading the diary, the air inside the house grew colder. Suddenly, she heard a rustling behind her. Turning around, she saw a dark figure disappearing down the corridor. Frightened, Alice tightly held her flashlight and chased after the figure. The figure had gone down to the basement stairs. The basement was darker and more eerie than other parts of the house. Alice tried to examine her surroundings with the weak light of her flashlight. In one corner of the basement, she saw a large iron door with an old seal and strange symbols on it. Alice tried to open the door, but it was locked. Just then, she heard whispers coming from behind the door. These whispers sounded very much like those mentioned in Elizabeth's diary. Alice started looking for a key to unlock the mystery behind the door. While searching through the shelves and boxes in the basement, she found an old and rusty key on the floor. Curious if it would open the door, she placed it in the lock and turned it. The door creaked open heavily. Behind the door was an old ritual room. The walls were covered with dark symbols and ancient inscriptions. In the center of the room, there was a large stone altar surrounded by candles. Alice thought this room might be connected to the disappearance of the Whitmore family. Suddenly, she noticed movement in the corner of the room. The dark figure had appeared again and was approaching her. Alice retreated in fear. As the figure came closer, it became more distinct. It was the spirit of Elizabeth. Elizabeth looked at Alice with deep pain and helplessness in her eyes. Alice felt that the spirit would not harm her and tried to calm down. Elizabeth approached and whispered, "Thank you for finding me, but there's no way out from here." As Alice tried to understand what Elizabeth had said, the air in the room grew colder and darkness enveloped her. Suddenly, shadows from every corner of the room surrounded her. These shadows were the spirits of other members of the Whitmore family. Helplessly, Alice looked around. Elizabeth looked at Alice one last time and said, "You are now part of this curse too." Alice, with tears in her eyes, felt herself disappearing among the spirits. A scream echoed through the depths of the forest, and Alice was never heard from again in Willow Creek. The people of Willow Creek believed that the curse of the dead forest had shown itself once more. The town continued to keep its dark secrets for years. However, the whispers, screams, and shadows from the forest each night reminded them that the curse would never end. The dead forest would never reveal its secrets, and those who entered would be lost forever. The curse of the Black River. Black River Town, true to its name, was filled with deep and dark secrets. The history of the town was intertwined with the mystical beliefs of the indigenous people and terrifying events. The river, winding around the town as if guarding all its dark secrets, always appeared black regardless of the time of day, unsettling the townsfolk constantly. Thomas and Laura, born and raised in Black River Town, but had left in their youth, were now compelled to return following the death of Laura's grandmother. The house, one of the town's oldest, was located right on the riverbank. As they returned to the town, Laura tried to recall the sweet traces of childhood memories, but the town's dark atmosphere overshadowed these memories. Upon arrival, their old friends welcomed them warmly, yet there was a kind of worry and fear in everyone's eyes. Upon entering her grandmother's house, Laura and Thomas were greeted by its nostalgic scent. The interior bore the weariness of years, with every corner hiding a memory. They lost themselves among the old furniture, carefully preserved items by her grandmother, and the faded photos on the walls. Laura chose to stay in her grandmother's bedroom for the first night. The room was unchanged. Even her grandmother's books, jewelry, and the old radio were in their places. As Laura lay in bed, she tried to feel her grandmother's warmth, but was haunted by a sense of discomfort. At midnight, Laura woke up to a strange sound. It resembled the murmur of water and someone whispering. Initially thinking it came from the river, she soon realized it was from inside the house. She got up quietly to find its source, leading her to the old radio, which was off, yet the sounds grew clearer, whispering, "Escape from here. Save yourself." The next morning, driven by curiosity, Laura and Thomas decided to learn more about the town's history. They visited the local library to explore old records. Mary, the elderly librarian, assisted them and began to unfold the story of the Black River's curse. The Black River has been cursed since the town was established, Mary explained, opening an old book. The locals believed it was guarded by a dark spirit. Anyone who approached the river either disappeared or lost their mind. That's why the town's founders settled around, but never touched the river. Although skeptical, Laura and Thomas were determined to unravel the mystery behind her grandmother's death. Mary showed them an old diary belonging to Laura's grandmother, which contained terrifying experiences related to the river. Laura was chilled as she read the diary. It recounted her grandmother's youthful encounter with the river, where she heard a voice from the water trying to pull her in. She escaped but was haunted by continuous nightmares afterward, believing that the river's spirit never left her, as she would dream of drowning every night. Moved to tears, Laura realized her grandmother had harbored these fears all her life. Thomas consoled her, and together, they decided to find the source of this curse. Varsel and Mitten following the diary's clues, Laura and Thomas made their way to the riverbank. To their disbelief, the river's waters were indeed dark and seemed alive. They discovered an ancient stone structure by the river, a temple built by the town's founders to contain the river spirit. Entering the temple, they saw old inscriptions and symbols detailing rituals to summon the river spirit. Approaching a large stone in the center, Laura found her grandmother's name inscribed on it, signifying her connection to the river. She realized her grandmother had struggled to end this curse, but failed. As they spent more time in the temple, Laura and Thomas felt the presence of the river spirit growing stronger. The air thickened, and shadows deepened around them. Suddenly, the temple doors shut, trapping them inside. Laura remembered the last lines of her grandmother's diary, "Do not awaken the river spirit. Facing it is worse than death." However, Laura knew she had to do something to end the curse. She found a knife used in the rituals by her grandmother to seal the spirit. Holding the knife, Laura approached the central stone and plunged it in. Suddenly, the temple was filled with bright light, and Laura and Thomas found themselves in the river's depths, surrounded by dark water and stifling silence. Laura encountered her grandmother's spirit, who explained how the river spirit was awakened and how it could be appeased. Using this knowledge, Laura called upon the river spirit, offering her grandmother's spirit in exchange for peace. The spirit accepted Laura's offer, and the river's waters gradually cleared. Laura and Thomas found themselves back inside the temple, the doors now open, and the air outside purified. Returning to the town, they noticed everything had returned to normal. Laura and Thomas had ended the town's curse. The river was no longer dark, and the townspeople could finally breathe easily. However, Laura knew her grandmother's spirit was still at peace in the river's depths. They returned to her grandmother's house, now filled with tranquility instead of fear. Laura decided to honor her grandmother's memory and live a happy life in the house. Black River Town had finally found peace, but the traces of the river spirit still lingered. Everyone knew that the darkness could awaken again, potentially ensnaring the town in its curse once more. Therefore, the townsfolk decided to avoid touching the river and never forget the dark secrets of the past.